Who'd you go kill and pillage today, David? I mean, that was like what they did.
Yeah. I made some people angry, and they told me to fall in line.
Maybe happy in the moment, but your long-term peace is gone.
What's up, guys? Welcome back to the Patros Podcast as we're on a journey to embrace healthy masculinity. My name is Allan, if we haven't met before, and this is Jeff, who's now taking a drink of water.
What's up, Allan?
What's up, man?
How you doing?
Doing good.
Just us today.
Yeah.
Ooh, intimate.
You are my favorite woman that has sat in that. Man.
You need some context for that.
So.
They'd be like, man, I thought
I thought this was
for
masculinity.
transgender.
So, obviously, our first podcast that there was a female guest was Josh and Vicky, who are staff members and team members of Man Up and Go, and it was on the international podcast. So, of course, Jeff, Vicky is like a big sister to him.
Big sister.
So
Love you, Vic.
He gave her flowers and said how important she was. But then we had another female guest, and so we started a trend where we tell every female that comes on the podcast that they're our favorite.
The most important female in the world.
But it was
at
actually
the current
funny.
moment.
Remember when? So the next podcast with a new female guest comes out, and Vicky texts our group chat. And she's like, "Saw the podcast, guys."
How could you? You're dead to me, Jeff. I just need a few minutes to get back alive to her.
Yeah,
I think I'm back.
yeah.
I don't know. I'll check in.
It's okay.
It's
you
okay,
guys,
even if I'm
you
not.
guys go back and forth.
We go back. We go way back. So, Allan, what do we got today?
I have some videos or recent events topics that I want to present to you. Some of them might not be things that you know too much about.
Okay.
But I'd love to get your input and reactions as a Patros, as somebody
so
that has
like a hot take
wisdom.
Patros Day.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I like that. And I haven't seen these, so.
Yeah.
But some of these
might know
I might know about them, but.
Yeah, because we have like a similar algorithm. I'm starting to have golf in my algorithm.
Well, if
Which
you're
is
logged into
funny.
the Man Up one,
No.
that's why.
No. On my personal algorithm.
Oh, okay.
But that has happened to me before where I'm like, why is there so much football? And I'm like, oh, I'm logged into Man Up.
Football and golf.
All right, so first one that I wanted to show you. This one's heavy. This isn't a light one. Actually, you know what? No, let's start with a light one.
Okay. Ease the listener into
Yeah,
it.
so actually I want to show you this one. So
Okay.
hip hop, I kind of told you something about this recently about there's like a beef within hip hop.
Right.
Okay. It's between
J. Cole,
Drake, Kendrick, but there's like 20 guys versus Drake. It's a whole lot of people. I'm not focused on that because that's its own sport. But J. Cole came out with a diss track, semi-diss track. It was like a warning shot to Kendrick.
Okay.
Because Kendrick had said a couple things on another song. But it wasn't a full diss towards either Drake or J. Cole.
And for the people who don't follow rap, like, that's a common thing.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, that's kind of how you.
Yeah, like when 50 Cent came on, he was going at people left and right. For anybody that knows hip-hop, there's this guy, Chamillionaire. And he was famous at one point. But 50 Cent dissed Chamillionaire once. And Chamillionaire didn't, like, diss him back. He didn't start the beef back. And then one day, he pulled 50 Cent, saw Chamillionaire, and he was walking in the hallway. He pulls him aside. He was like, what are you doing? Yeah. And he was like, what do you mean? He was, I gave you the alley-oop. You didn't dunk it. I was giving you attention. You should have capitalized. And he didn't realize, like, oh, this guy didn't hate me? No, he was just like, I was giving you something to play off of. Yeah, so it's really normal in the world of hip-hop for, like, beefs and stuff to take place. But when it's between friends is when sometimes it's like, this might actually be, like, an actual beef.
Yeah.
But what happened was J. Cole drops a diss track towards Kendrick just as like a warning shot. Hey, I don't want to take this past rap or past this point. And I'm going to show you what he ends up doing after having put that out.
Okay. We're also educating a whole bunch of people right now about,
because a lot of you might not know
about the world of rap.
Yeah, there's so many layers to this, but I want to really talk about
including me, because my generation.
Yeah, and this isn't the Christian hip hop world either. All right, so let me see if I can find just the clip right here. And I might have to bleep some stuff up. Hold on. Let me let the ad play first.
Don't worry about. Oh.
So I'm probably gonna have to bleep some stuff out, which is fine. But he has a thing called Dreamfest, and in Dreamfest, it's all his audience and the people that are in his circle, their audience. And some of the people that are performing there are actually friends of Kendrick Lamar, who's another prevalent, notorious rapper. So this is where he gets on stage after a decent amount of his set. This is what he does. Except for one part. So he just said that he's hold on, let me stop it. He just said that he was super proud of a project he put out called Might Delete Later, and he was proud of it except for one thing, and this is where the video starts from.
Me, right? So I'm so proud of that project except for one part. It's one part of that shit that make me feel like, man, that's the lamest shit I ever did in my life, right? And I know this is not what a lot of people want to hear. I know I can hear my niggas up there right now like, nah, don't do that. But I got to keep it 100 with y'all, right? I damn near had a relapse, right? Because y'all heard some shit that happened 2-3 weeks ago, however long it was. Y'all heard that bazooka that was dropped on.
So he's referencing Kendrick. He had a verse on a song where he kind of comes at Drake and J. Cole together and says, nah, I'm the top dog. So that's what he's referencing.
Game, right? So all of this time of me moving on my own accord, for the first time I was tested. Why am I tested? Because I got the world and I got my like, what you gonna do, Cole? My like, boy, I must have had 1,000 missed calls. Oh my God. Text flooded. I couldn't even answer my. It's wartime, right? I just want to see blood, and I was conflicted because one, I know my heart, you know what I mean, and like I know how I feel about my peers, these two years that I just been blessed to even stand beside in this game, let alone chase their greatness, right? So I felt conflicted because I'm like, bro, I know I don't really feel no way, but the world want to see blood. I don't know if y'all can feel that, but the world want to see blood. So I say all of that to say, in my spirit of trying to like get this music out, I ain't gonna lie to y'all, I moved in a way that I feel spiritually feel bad on me. Like I try to like jab back and I try to keep it friendly, but at the end of the day, when I listen to it and when it comes out and I see the talk, that shit don't sit right with my spirit. It make me feel that disrupts my peace. So what I want to say right here tonight is, in the midst of me doing that and in that trying to find a little angle and downplay this catalog and his greatness, I want to say right now tonight, how many people think Kendrick Lamar is one of the greatest to ever touch a microphone? Dreamville, y'all love Kendrick Lamar, correct? As do I. So I just want to come up here and be like, publicly be like, bruh, that was the lamest, like, goofy. And I say all that to say, it made me feel like 10 years ago when I was moving incorrectly. And I pray that God align me back up on my purpose and on my path. You know what I mean? I pray that my nigga really didn't feel no way. And if he did, I got my chin out. Take your best shot. I'm going to take that shit on the chin, boy. Do what you do. You know what I mean? Like,
wow.
That's crazy.
Wow. I feel like I'm trying to figure out how to put that in context for maybe some of the listeners who are older. You know what I'm saying? Like, who don't understand. Because even me, like when I followed rap, I was, 13, 14, 16, 17, 18. Like, that stuff has long passed me by. Like, I kind of know who's in the game, but I don't, like, know.
Yeah, you're not active.
I'm not active in it. So I'm trying to figure out, like, for someone to come out, like, I'm trying to think of who are arch enemies or not even arch enemies. It's really not that. It's more like, I don't know, to just publicly come out and humble yourself like that.
I mean, think like political sphere, maybe.
I just
Like if you had a politician come out and say,
almost
you know
like
what, I
I'm
said
thinking like,
some-
or like Dennis Rodman, right? Like Dennis
Oh,
Rodman
yeah,
was
yeah,
a
yeah.
bad boy.
Yeah,
And he
yeah.
made his image off of being bad.
Yeah.
And when he was on your team, you loved him. Like when he came to the Bulls
You want,
and we
you want
won
him
3
to
more
knock some heads on
championships,
your behalf.
we were like, I was like, oh man, I'm so glad that guy's with me. It's kind of like Tom Brady, right? Like if Tom Brady is on your team, you love him. If he's not, you hate him because he's always winning and
Yeah.
stuff. And so I'm just thinking about Dennis Rodman came out and was like, yo, man, I said this or I did this to so-and-so. Man, that was wrong. I shouldn't have done that. So, you know, do what you got to do. I'll take it. You know, I'll take it like a man. I'm going to put my chin out. Bro, we would have been like, what?
Yeah.
We'd be like, who is that?
Yeah.
That-
And not
that's
20 years later, like in the
No,
heat
like
of the
in
moment.
the heat of the moment.
Yeah.
Because it's easy to come back 20 years later and go, oh, man, that was a mistake. You know, hindsight's 2020. But I think from a, you know, talking about this podcast, trying to be biblical men, right? And trying to pass on the wisdom of a Patros to the next generation, everything that we learned. Like you could tell in that clip, like he even said it, like, I wasn't walking right 10 years ago. And I kind of reverted back to that. But man, it's like, you know, not to over spiritualize it, but isn't that what we do? We get walking in the right way and then something hits us and we're like,
That's unexpected or something. Yeah.
and we revert back to the flesh. We revert back to a way that we used to think. And depending on how powerful it is, it can like stay around for a while, you know? And I've seen Christians that have fallen away, and I see Christians who have not, you know, they took a big shot and they haven't been able to get back on their feet. So for him to do that, who, you know, now he's not a believer, right?
Not
like,
that
what's
I
his,
know of.
because he's
Not-
talking about God.
He's spiritual. He's very spiritual.
So he's into spiritual things.
Yeah, like he's had verses where he's talked about like Jesus in a very informal way. Like he has a song that says like, I'll go to hell if Jesus asks for a feature because I kill everybody that I'm gonna try.
Yeah.
Like he says stuff like that where you're like, I don't think you understand
Yeah.
the severity of Jesus' name.
Yeah.
But he has other songs where he's like, how can you doubt that there is a God? So I think he's very much, he's reverent to the fact that there's a God.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But anybody at the top of their game who is going to come out and publicly apologize, and like I don't really know J. Cole all
If I
that
just
well,
saw that, and I would be like, God's doing something in that guy's life or something.
but that's what I'm saying, because
Yeah.
I don't have a context. So
Yeah.
all I'm basing my opinion on right now is that clip,
His
that little
action.
clip you just showed me.
Yeah.
That seemed to be one of the most heartfelt and genuine. I actually believe him apologies, because most of the guys in the political sphere, they come out.
Yeah.
You know that there's just some ramification, and so their handlers have said, "Hey, you need to say this,"
Yep.
or like sometimes athletes or whatever. But
Yeah, it's
that
very
seemed really
strategic to
genuine.
like, I made some people angry and they told me to fall in line.
yeah,
Versus everybody's telling him like,
no, man,
it's not
you
going to be
gotta,
good
like,
if you apologize. Do not apologize. And
Yeah.
he's like, I have to.
I have to, like, something stirring in my soul, man. We need to pray that God moves on his heart,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
obviously he's got a huge impact and following and influence, and of course, as soon as he does that, people will doubt it. I remember
Everyone's clowning him now.
Oh yeah, for sure,
Yeah.
for sure. Well, and there's precedents, right? Like look at Kanye. Like we know the pastor, right? Who not know, but
One of them. Yeah.
one of them
There's
who
been a
actually
few.
was with him during kind of that discipleship period where he was really, for all intents
Seeking.
and purposes, like they would have said he was saved. I mean, he
Yeah.
was seeking the Lord. He had a right understanding of doctrine and stuff, and he came out with that Jesus is King album. And we played that. I mean, when that came out, we played it like 50 times in a row. Like it was always playing. And you're like, man, this guy actually, I feel like he gets it. Like he gets the gospel and he gets what it's all about. And now he's just like, I don't know if he's off his medication or what, but
Yeah, I don't know. Well, there's so much like to it. It's like because some people say that he was misdiagnosed with bipolar and stuff like that. But the thing is I don't know if you've seen this circulate, but there's a video of him saying in an interview, I prayed and I needed Jesus to be there and he wasn't. and it was during his divorce where Kim was leaving him. And so I guess like in the midst of that, I don't know the ins and outs of what happened, but he said that on a podcast where like the reason that he's moving how he is right now was like it was kind of that thing of like I asked you to be there for me and you weren't, which I wonder if that's something that some guys could definitely relate to.
For sure. I mean, one of my biggest struggles in the last probably decade has been around the idea of prayer. You know, because when you look in the scriptures, obviously like praying, on the one hand, it kind of seems like it's this super spiritual thing and only like a few people get it. And on the other hand, it seems, no, it's just talking to your Father. And it's like, it should be easy. It should be like a Sunday morning. Like it should be easy. But this idea of answered prayer, and what we do in our Western culture is because we ask God something, and because the Bible says if you ask anything in his name, he will give that to you, that what you ask. Yeah. We go, okay, well, if I'm living right and I ask something in his name, I genuinely come before him and say, this is what I need, and it's going to give you glory, and I don't feel a check in my spirit to not pray for this, and then you don't answer it, we go, oh, well, that just means that he answered no. Yeah. And that's how we get around it with our Western mindset, because our Western mindset needs like a yes and a no, a black and a white. We need concrete. Like it's either the number 4, the number 2, or the number 3, but it can't be all of them at the same time. Answer. Yes. So we're like, how do I reconcile this? And I do that. I do that. I'm like, well, I guess it's a no then. And is that an answer? Yes.
It can't be a not yet.
And maybe some people say even if it's a not yet, it's still an answer. Yeah. So it's like, okay, he did answer. So the scriptures are true. I don't have to doubt the scriptures, because it was at least an answer. But I don't know, man. I think sometimes God he just is silent. He's just silent. So is that an answer? I guess that's an answer. He's answering with silence. But I mean, if your wife asked you something, hey, Allan, are you gonna take out the trash for me? And you were just silent.
Yeah, if I'm silent, that's me sneaking out and taking it out.
Right.
So I could come back and be like, no, it's already done.
I guess it's good. Like she's not gonna go.
That'd be
hey, I want you to answer me, Allan. Did you take the trash out? And if you don't say anything, like you're that's not the way you interact with people. Yeah. So like even that, I feel like sometimes we feel like we have to apologize for God because of how like
he functions
or how we see other people live out. And so like in that instance, like my gut instinct is like, no, man, my God answers prayers, but maybe he just has another plan for you. Right. But when you're going through stuff, that's a platitude. Yeah. That doesn't really help. And that's what we do as Christians. I don't know about you, but people tell me, man, it's just God's will. Like he's got a plan out of this. He's working all things together for good. All the stuff that the scripture says is true. And I believe it, but in the moment, I don't know, and I don't know if it's a personality thing or what, but I don't need that right in the moment. I mean, you could say it, and I know that you mean well.
Emotionally, like it's not gonna land.
And I'm so far in my walk that I know you mean well. You tell me that, so I'm not gonna whatever. Yeah. But in my spirit, I'm like,
it doesn't fix anything.
That is a platitude. Like it's empty words to me because I'm hurting right now. And look at it from Kanye's perspective, right? And I don't know anything. I mean, I know very little about Kanye West.
Yeah. The world knows very little.
Right. Yeah. Probably he knows very little about himself.
I mean, he's like, he is a phenomenon. Like, there's no one that I think that has existed that we know of in history that has been the best producer worldwide, the best rapper worldwide, as far as like album sales and stuff goes. The best like physical, like fashion artist, like he changed the fashion industry, music industry, like anything he's tapped into he's been the best at.
Yeah, he's very influential. Very influential in our culture.
So you're gonna get a complicated person if you have a guy like that. Yeah.
But to want to be following God and then to not want a divorce. And then that prayer is not answered. Yeah. And you know that the scriptures say that God hates divorce. Like, so he probably knew that. He probably had pastors counseling him, along those lines. And then I can see from his perspective why he would say, man, God didn't show up for me. Right? But we can see that.
Yeah.
So it's like, so I get it. And yet at the same time, I also understand the fact that, you know, when people move from God, it's not him moving. Like it is us moving from God. God is immutable. He's there.
Yeah.
And the scriptures say, if you seek him, you'll find him if you seek him with all your heart. But I also do think that God trusts us with the silence. And it's like, I think I said this the other day, there was a line, oh man, I wonder if I can find it. It was a line in a David Crowder song. Yeah, here it is. Praise the Lord. And he says, your love's an ocean, not a river, a symphony, not just a song. I don't think everybody's right. I just think most of us were wrong. I think that when we get to heaven, we're going to laugh when we can see how hard we try to make it and how easy it should be. And so I don't just buy it anymore. No, I've tried and tried to know everything for sure, but I find I know less as I come to know you more. You're not who I thought you were, praise the Lord. I find I know you less, or I find I know less as I come to know you more.
Wow.
That for me, that's what I've experienced.
Yeah.
And it's like the less, like I feel like the more I know him, the less I am sure about anything else. And like in that instance for Kanye, you know, with divorce, and, you know, my story is not a secret.
Yeah.
We were very close to divorce.
Yeah.
And, you know, there was a time where I don't know if she was doing this on purpose, but she knew I didn't want a divorce. And I think she kind of used that as leverage in the relationship. And I remember getting to a point where I had to be okay with that. I wasn't going to be able to move forward. I'd take it on the chin. So, and I think, you know, maybe he never got to that place of, you know, because I asked and prayed and, you know, and it just didn't, but I had to come to a place where it's like, no, you're going to have to face the music. You're going to have to take it on the chin. And if it means you're going to be divorced, then you're going to be divorced. Yeah. And I have something else for you, but that's, so it's,
which, mind you, I don't think Kim is even a believer that I've even seen any fruit to think. So then you have like past decisions of like even before you were saved, right? Like
so much.
You married someone not on the foundations of the gospel, so to expect for a gospel outcome is rare. It's possible miraculously.
Can happen, but it's rare.
But then to blame God is where it's like, hold on, like
what's your part in it?
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah.
When we sin, there are consequences for sin. And that doesn't mean that God doesn't love us and he's not going to work to restore us, but it means the natural effects of sin are there. And so, you know, in that case, in his particular case, if she were to divorce, whatever, you know, and I don't know what exactly went on between them.
Even the grounds for her divorcing him were.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So you just have to, like, you have to, you know, be able to accept your responsibility in the sin. But I've seen so many guys, you know, and over the years been able to counsel and be with a lot of dudes who just, I feel like, give up before the miracle. Like they just give up before the miracle. It's like, we want everything to happen so quickly.
Right now.
So microwave generation, you know? Like Vinny the Microwave Johnson. You remember him? You're too young for that. Detroit Piston, man. They would heat up just hitting them threes when Detroit was winning. Because Detroit was not really a great team back in the 80s, in my opinion. But they were nasty. And the only guy on their team, they had Isaiah, but the only guy on their team who could really score and heat up, Vinny the Microwave Johnson. He could just get, it was like Steph Curry before Steph Curry, right? He could just get hot.
Yeah.
Get streaky. But
and then it gets dangerous.
All you need is a couple streaks.
Yeah, and you're good.
Like you win games that way, right?
You get momentum.
And all of a sudden you're able to keep it. Like
yeah.
So anyway, but I just feel like
we have like an entitlement problem.
Yeah, we want everything now. We want everything like, you know, it's like I want Vinny the Microwave Johnson to get me out of this jam right this very second. Well, sometimes he was cold. You know, and he wasn't hitting. So you know, we can't expect everything to happen. I was reading Oswald Chambers a couple days ago, and he's like, we expect that we can, like, he talked about ascend to the heavenlies, you know, and basically what he's saying is like, our expectation is that we can get this like intimate, amazing, like out of this world experience with God with very little effort. And he's like, that's not how it works.
Yeah.
Like some things just, you got to put in the work and they just take time.
Yeah.
And so like, it's like I said before, it's that Shailin line, like some things are only learned by age and experience. There are some things that they're not going to happen until you just wait. It's just waiting. So I think in our culture to expect, so I think that's what's so interesting about that J. Cole clip is that he really didn't wait all that long and was able to come back and say that. And I just love that because I think anything that we do should be taking the temperature down, right? Like in our relationships.
Yeah.
When the temperature is getting raised by someone else, like whether it's a spouse or a coworker or whatever, like we can meet that.
Yeah.
But then if they're the type that's going to meet that, like, what are you doing? You're just raising it on each other.
That's good. And
I feel like us as believers, we should always be in that place. You know, Jesus said, blessed are the peacemakers. In our culture, it's like, no, I'm going to make war. And that's what he's saying. Y'all want blood.
The world wants blood, yeah.
But he was being a peacemaker, really, is what he was doing.
Yeah.
So he didn't even know he's doing blessed, but blessed are those. So when he talks about the spirit, like his spirit wasn't right, it's because happy is him who creates peace. You make war, may be happy in the moment, but your long-term peace is gone. That's why all these dictators they were crazy.
Yeah. Because they needed more blood.
They needed more blood to satisfy I feel like,
desire.
yeah. But when they were in their solitude, they were nuts, like King Saul.
Yeah.
He was,
Why do you think that, like him, I don't think he's a believer. Obviously, it's not anything for us to judge because he could be in the process and he just got saved right before that, so he has no idea. But from my perspective, I don't know that he's saved. But why do you think that so many guys that are biblically sound for the most part, they at least understand doctrine, but would struggle to be that courageous and sacrifice even career? Like he's sacrificing career, reputation, in doing that.
Yeah, see, that's the crazy thing, right?
Without the Holy Spirit, likely.
Yeah, like I'm trying to put it in context for someone. It's like, is there a decision that you could make where you humble yourself and maybe it's a profits thing, like in the corporate world, doing the right thing versus profits, because if we do X, we know that, it's going to result in this monetary gain. If we do Y, that's actually the right thing. Or maybe there's insider information that you have that could contribute to, whatever.
You winning and you don't need to. Yeah.
And you're choosing not to do that.
Yeah.
So it is like, it's antithetical to what we normally do. And why guys don't struggle is because we love ourselves more than God, or we love money more than God. There's a reason Jesus said you can't serve both mammon and God.
Yeah.
Can't do it.
Yeah.
And so ultimately your idol, it goes back to that podcast we did about idols. What's your idol? And if God isn't at the center of everything that we do, and too many people, and listen, I feel like that there's some fault at the church here.
Like discipleship?
Yeah, just like we have made kingdoms in our Western evangelicalism. And the celebrity pastor, it's funny because you grew up, were you born 93? So you were born 93. You maybe have a little bit of memory of not having a computer in the house, or do you not?
I don't know.
Or like, do you always remember? Do you always remember phones?
Computers were bigger.
They were just massive.
They were like thick, like it was like a box,
like a TV. But it was as thick as it was.
No,
wide.
I think maybe when I was like really like 5 or 4, my mom had a computer in the office, but not at home. I think. Yeah.
So maybe you were.
We always had phones.
But anybody born 2000 and later, really.
Oh yeah, there's no context for.
There's no context for a world that existed prior to. So technology is all they know. When you're DM someone, that's like what you do.
Yeah.
For someone even my age, but certainly an old, like if you're 50s, 60s right now, 70s, to DM somebody, no, I'm going to call them. You know, that's why like when our buddy Luke calls us, and I'm like, bro, why don't you just text that? Like, I'm like, you could just text it that. So he's like an old soul, you know, like calling, but I think there's some maturity in that. But at the same time, how can you blame somebody who didn't grow, like all they know is technology?
This is how I connect.
That's how you connect.
Yeah.
And I think one of the things that we do poorly is we don't take that and go, okay, I'm not going to judge that, like the older generation, and say, I'm not going to judge how you communicate. I'm going to just recognize that you do communicate that way, and where I can engage with you on that level, I'm going to try to do it. And almost like, hey, teach me. Like it's going to a younger person and say, hey, teach me. How do I connect on this level? I was reading an article about a guy who, he was like 70-something, still working with the youth. And so, like, whenever something new comes out, he doesn't go, man, these whippersnappers, these, you know. He's like, no, like, hey, can you teach me that? Because I want to be able to connect with you.
Wow.
Bro, I was so convicted. Because you know me, I'm like, man.
This is so ridiculous.
And I do think social media, there's a big problem with it.
Yeah.
I think there's a big problem with a lot of it. I also think it's not going away.
No.
Unless, like.
Well, and there's benefits to it.
And there are benefits.
The same way that there's problems to it. Yeah.
Everything is, social media is not morally evil.
No.
It's not morally good. It is ambivalent. It's just in the middle.
It's dangerous both for good and evil.
Yeah. It's whatever we do with it that makes it have its power. So we can't look at social media and go, well, that's an inherently evil thing. It's not inherently evil. The inherently evil thing is you and me.
As humans. Like, it's the fact that humans will take it and corrupt it.
Correct. And I don't even know if people realize that. Like even people, men in the church. So going back to church being the issue, like the discipleship of our people, I think, is ultimately the issue.
How to use the tools.
And just like in everything, whether like in everything in life, like how we interact in the business world, how we interact with our families. And I was reading, one guy was saying how, you know, he doesn't like it that, you know, these preachers will bust on him for, you know, not spending time with his family. And he's like, I have to provide for them though. And if I don't work these 50 hours, I can't even
they can't eat.
So what do you want from me? And I was like, man, that's a pretty good point though, that he's saying. And so it's like, he's having to choose now. What's his lifestyle? And I don't know. I mean, maybe he's overspending
and that's where discipleship comes in, is knowing each other well enough.
Knowing each other well enough to say, okay.
You're blowing smoke. Yeah. You could take 10 hours off of your.
Correct. Yeah. You could do it. So it's just like, I think that why are we not responding that way? Why can men not humble themselves? Why can men not risk, you know, reputation or risk, you know, financial gain or whatever it may be? I just think it's because we don't love Jesus enough. I mean, what other reason could there be? Like, you're going to prioritize what you love. And the thing you love the most is the thing you spend most of your time on and most of your treasure on, right? So it's like, why are they not doing it? So for him to do that as an unbeliever, J. Cole, like that's pretty phenomenal.
Yeah.
And maybe the Lord is where you, like, I think you said something to the effect of he's kind of spiritual. So
yeah, like he's definitely always spiritually curious, but like the fact that he functions like this prior to having an affirmation of like, I believe in Jesus Christ is King.
Yeah.
Like that's what's wild.
That is wild.
Because there was even like 5 years ago or 6 years ago, there's this other rapper from Miami, from like my area, Lil Pump. And he had a whole entire, like, millions of people were saying F J. Cole, like the cuss word F, and then J. Cole. And instead of, like, he did do a somewhat of a diss track. I'll send it to you sometime because I think you'd like it. Yeah. But he literally schools the kid on, like, hey, this is how your career is going to go, and I don't want it to, but this is really the trajectory you're on. Then sits down with the kid, does a full 2 hours or hour long.
J. Cole sat down with this kid?
He sits down with the kid and says, hey, I'm just curious, like, you know, why'd you do that? And, like, what's your story? And just wants to know more about the kid. And then the kid's like, I actually love your music. And, like, but, like,
man, this dude's a peacemaker.
Yeah, no, it's crazy to watch. Like, but in the song, he literally says, like, your career's going to go nowhere because of these things. Yeah. I'm not even mad at you. I'm just letting you know you need to either stop or it's going to go this trajectory. And he's like, keep saying my name and I'll make sure it goes even worse.
Yeah.
But he sits down with them. But so in the light of what we just talked about of like men that sacrifice I thought that was a good segue for this
Oh,
next video.
good segue.
Yeah. So this is, I forget the bishop's name. I think it's Bishop Marmari Emmanuel. I don't know how to say it in Assyrian or Aramaic, but he's of the Assyrian Aramaic Church in Sydney, Wakely neighborhood. And he was just recently stabbed.
No, you have a warning sign up. Hey.
I probably won't play this video.
Jeez.
Yeah.
So, and I remember hearing something about this. I did not see that video.
Yeah.
Dang, but he did
hit
not
his
die.
head. No. He you see him, so like he literally looks at his blade. So context, a guy, people believe him to be Muslim, I'm not sure, but walks up to the bishop. Do y'all want to hear more of that conversation? Well, you can by becoming a Patros subscriber. You'll get exclusive member-only content. Just go to the link in the description or go to the Patros website.
Yeah, and when you become a subscriber, like what you're telling us is that you enjoy this content and you want to hear more of it. So every dollar that you give helps us do just that.
So thank you again for listening as we just together go on this journey of embracing healthy masculinity.